Hello and welcome to India Economic Debate. I'm Karan Thapar. Will the petrol and diesel price hike be rolled back? With the government under pressure not just from the opposition but its own allies and possibly sections of the Congress party as well, this question has become a key focus of concern just days after the budget was presented in Parliament. With me to discuss this developing tug of war, from the Congress party, its spokesperson and MP AVSEQ01, from the Communist Party of India, its National Secretary and MP D. Raja, and from the Bharatiya Janata Party, its spokesperson Siddharth Singh. Mr. Singhvi, let me ask you a simple, blunt question. Will there be a rollback or won't there be one? The Prime Minister coming back from Saudi Arabia on that plane said there won't be one. But that very morning we all woke up to an interview from the Finance Minister to the Times of India where he said, I am open to discussion. So which is it?
Current 2 or 3 points. One is this budget is much more than about this rollback, and people who are reducing it to a rollback issue are wrong. Secondly, both the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister are right. As things stand today, we are where we are. There is no change. There is no question of rollback. However, as is true with all effective, mature and efficient coalitions, discussions are always done with all concerned parties, and despite soothsayers to the contrary, we always arrive at an amicable solution. Certainly, we are bound to take into account the concerns, the legitimate concerns of all stakeholders, but that is not to say that there is going to be a rollback. Today, things stand as they are.
You know, drop those grand adjectives, efficient, effective, mature, and listen to what you in fact said. As of today, there is no rollback, but there could be one tomorrow. Now, is that what you call a determined government that in 24 hours changes its position and doesn't even know it's going to change it so that you can make these grand statements? Because truly, it sounds as if what this government lacks is firmity of purpose.
On the contrary, a aspect of good governance in coalition is not to say rudely, and because some of our opponents like to create crises or sensationalism, look, we won't hear you, we won't talk to you. On the contrary, a sign of good governance is that you take into account all perspectives, but the decision will remain ultimately that of the cabinet. That decision today is known. After discussion, I cannot say what will happen, but certainly it stands reiterated today.
Alright, let me bring you in, and before we come to this rollback, let's talk about this new concept of good governance. Is it good governance to have decided within the cabinet before you announce the budget what the budget will be and then to stick to it, or is it good governance for the government to announce the budget, then discover that the government doesn't agree on the budget and then change its mind? Which is good governance?
I think the key thing is what leadership by definition is consensus. And this government doesn't believe in that. Consensus within their party, consensus within their government, consensus with the opposition parties, it doesn't exist, and therefore you are seeing a situation which is that the government is bound to roll back because their own allies the pressure is there. And this exactly had happened when we started the winter session on the farmers' agitation. They had to take back on the remunerative fair price and then on the sugar cane. So these are the aspects of a weak government rather than a strong government.
Not effective, efficient and mature.
Absolutely.
Let me bring you in at this point. You've been part of a coalition. In fact, you've been part of 2 coalitions, not just UPA1, but you were also part of the coalition earlier on when in fact Indrajit Gupta was Home Minister. What is good governance in a coalition situation? Is it to have decided the budget and got everyone to agree before you announce the budget, or to announce the budget, discover that in fact your own allies don't agree with it, and then have to change your mind and look embarrassed? Which is good governance?
Good governance, according to me, is one that takes everybody into confidence. Good governance means the government should be more responsible, more sensitive, more open to the suggestions given by not only their allies but the opposition parties.
But all of this should happen before the budget presumably, or is it okay for it to happen after the budget and then amend the budget?
No, budget is budget, but it can happen even after the budget, because budget is going to be debated. When the opposition gives some constructive suggestions, why not the government consider
Okay,
those
it's very-
suggestions and roll back?
That's very interesting. I'm going to come back to Mr. Abhishek Singhvi on this issue of what is good governance. I'll coming to you. I'm coming to you. Just let me finish the question, then it's all yours to answer. On this issue of what is good governance, you have criticism from the BJP, but strangely enough, you don't have that much criticism from Mr. Raja. Let me put this to you. You are so conscious of those adjectives you use: efficient, effective, mature. Why then was this efficiency and effectiveness not shown before the budget by consulting the TMC and DMK? Why did you not ascertain from them that they're against a rollback? They're against the increase and they want a rollback.
Each of you is entitled to their opinion, and certainly you can air it, but I want to repeat what I've said. I want to make 2 points which I think illustrate a bit of a fallacy in what is being discussed. Point number 1, unlike other decisions, in the case of budget, broad policy and direction can and is discussed within the government, and that too not with the opposition ever. But certainly, and I repeat, very important points we are missing, a budget is never discussed by anybody except the nitty-gritty of the language, except by the finance minister and the prime minister.
Can I
So
interrupt?
point number 1,
Can I interrupt?
one second. There is no question of discussing it with the coalition allies also as far as nitty-gritty is
Can I interrupt?
He's
Can I
wrong.
The point that I want to endorse. One second. The point of Raja I want to endorse: budget is sacrosanct till it is announced, but then budgets are changed in Parliament, because for 1 month after the budget we discuss in Parliament, and after parliamentary discussion frequently some parts of the budget are changed before the appropriations bill is passed.
No, hang on a moment. Now, permit someone else a chance. Permit someone else a chance. You say broad policy and direction is discussed in the cabinet. Are you saying to me that raising petrol and diesel prices doesn't fall under the rubric of broad policy and direction? Are you saying that you did not consult the DMK and TMC on this issue? Because if you didn't, then you're not effective, you're not efficient, you're not mature.
I think you are building castles in the air, Karan. This is far from what I am saying. What I am saying is that generally reducing subsidies so as to get monies, so as to reduce the fiscal deficit, to raise revenues is discussed. Some aspects are discussed in a broad way, but whether there will be a reduction of petrol or diesel by 5% to restore it to the area where it was in mid-2008 may not well be discussed, because the nitty-gritty of the budget.
All right, you want to come in?
Normal,
Go ahead,
anybody
Mr.
who knows
Raja.
the parliament.
Go ahead.
Mr. Abhishek, your understanding is wrong on one count. When UPA1 government was in office, the left parties were not part of the government, but we were supporting government from outside. When Mr. Chidambaram did budget exercises, we went to him and we gave our suggestions. Whether government accepted our suggestions or not, it's a different issue.
But what about the opposite? Did he tell you what he intended to do?
No, that's what I am saying. He did consult the left parties. Now DMK,
Okay.
DMK,
Can I
Trinamool
interrupt?
Congress,
Can I interrupt?
they are part of the government.
Can I interrupt? Are you therefore saying that if Mr. Chidambaram in his time had increased petrol and diesel, you would have been made aware of it before the budget was delivered?
As an ally, he's not talking.
No,
As an ally.
as an ally, we told them what he should do under
So
taxation.
this mistake couldn't have happened in UPA1.
Yes, we were as a check.
I think
You were there as a check.
Karan,
Come
the
in.
key issue is that the country is debating and under pressure of price rise. This increase of excise on the petrol and diesel has a cascading effect on the inflation.
I'll come to that later.
So, no,
I'll come to
so
that
therefore-
later. Stick to the good governance aspect. We'll come to the economics later. On the good governance point, there is an interesting debate on here. Is it required for the finance minister and the prime minister to share
you
these
don't-
details?
no,
Or let him
Karan,
speak and then I'll come back to you.
I was going to come on to that, because you said that what I was going to say. As a part of good governance, when you're talking of price rise, and it's a situation which is facing the government and all the people in the Aam Aadmi, it is bound that the government must discuss anything which is going to have an impact on the price rise, and that becomes mandatory well, there's no kind of a precedence, but it's a mandatory they should have discussed with within the cabinet and also with the allies.
No, but hang on. So you're saying to me that good governance requires that the TMC and the DMK not have been taken by surprise, that they should have known.
They should have known. They should have consulted.
I agree, they should have known, because the left made every issue as a debatable issue at national level, whether it was
Forget the left. Stick to this. Stick to this.
Yes, they
You're
should
saying
have.
to me good governance requires that TMC and DMK should have known.
Yes, should have known, should have been consulted, because finance minister is not the finance minister of one party government, that is Congress government. This finance minister is the finance minister of a coalition government.
Let's go back to you, Mr. Singhvi. You've just heard both the BJP and your former ally of the CPI say that this is not good governance in a coalition situation. You insist it is. They've refuted it. Your chance to answer them.
I'm sorry, the point I've made has been completely missed. What is being said just now from both the left and the BJP, if taken literally, would be a constitutional heresy, would be a constitutional fallacy. A budget, nitty-gritty, point, numbers, detail is never discussed, not even in the cabinet. I repeat, anybody who knows constitutional governance knows that. It is discussed with only 2 people on earth, actually 4 people. Prime Minister of the country, Finance Minister, Finance Secretary, Expenditure Secretary, and maybe one more additional secretary who keeps the actual document.
Can I interrupt?
That's the point to remember.
Can I interrupt?
Number 2, 1 minute.
Was Sonia Gandhi consulted on this critical issue of increasing petrol and diesel? Yes or no?
Let me tell you, Karan, that anybody who knows constitutional governance knows that nobody except the names I have said are discussed.
So are you saying Sonia Gandhi wasn't consulted? So are you telling me Sonia Gandhi wasn't consulted?
Nobody can be consulted constitutionally on the nitty-gritty.
I'm asking a different question. I'm simply asking you whether she was consulted or not.
I'm sorry, Karan, you are trying to sensationalize without understanding the point.
I'm not sensationalizing. I'm simply trying to suggest that when the paper says Sonia was aware and approved, it's strange that she should have been consulted but not your allies.
Pranab Mukherjee, just like Chidambaram, consults generally with all stakeholders. He has meetings with the finance industry people, with political parties, with groups and representations. That starts from January to February. But that is very different from saying that para 55 which says X% increase or decrease in petrol prices is discussed. That would be a violation of every known convention.
You've made your point. I'm going to stop you there. We've left open the question whether Sonia Gandhi was consulted. You haven't given me an answer that refutes fully or even effectively the press impression that she was on board, but maybe the press is wrong, maybe you're right, that is also a possibility. I'm going to come back and no longer talk about the politics behind the rollback. I'm going to switch to the economics. Regardless of what the political pressure may be, is this an instance of a good, sound economic decision being possibly reversed for the wrong political reasons? That's in a moment's time. See you after the break. Welcome back to India Economic Debate. Let's now switch and talk about the economics, no longer the politics behind the decision to increase petrol and diesel prices. Mr. Siddharth Singh, the finance minister, says that now that the economy is fast picking up, he's simply restoring excise and custom duty cuts made earlier to boost the economy. Given that we're going to be hitting perhaps a growth rate of 7.2%, that the second quarter saw 7.9%, we're probably going up to 8 and 8.5 next year. Why is this not the right thing to do?
See, there are two different things. One is they have been speaking about the reducing the fiscal deficit. So let me just state, when we went in February 2009, before the budget 2009 was given, the fiscal deficit of the country was at 5.8%. And only after the stimulus which was given, stimulus was given by 1%. That was, therefore it went to 6.8%. So now coming back to 5.5% is not a great achievement, and they are doing through disinvestment and 3G.
But you're not answering my question.
Therefore I said there are two sides to it. The second side is on excise and service tax. Now, when we talk about the petrol and diesel prices, they have a cascading effect on the inflationary
Well,
pressure.
hang on a second there
therefore,
too. You call it a cascading effect. You use a phrase that makes it sound as if it's going to be a waterfall that's going to
No, it
deluge
will
and
be.
drown the
Yes,
country.
it
No,
will
it's
be.
not. Both the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister have said that in fact these two increases in petrol and diesel will only add 0.4% to inflation, and secondly it will be absorbed within 6 months. What's cascading about that?
no, well, they are making statement. There is a lip service and there is a reality.
Surely they have a better capacity to judge
No,
because of the
well,
access they have to statistics and figures than you.
No, fair enough. They have, but again, they have a capacity to make a statement, but they don't. But when we go back and see the delivery mechanism, there is a poor track record of this government also.
Let me bring you in and put it like this. You believe that this is the wrong economic step. You believe it's going to add to inflation and it's going to affect the development of the economy. The market, on the other hand, has welcomed it. It rose 175 points on Friday. Today, it's virtually doubled that by rising 343 more. How can it be the case that the market, which depends upon getting it right because the market's money is at stake, is wrong?
Exactly, this is the point. The corporate sector is very happy. The stock exchange market is very happy because the finance minister has doled out extreme, very massive concessions, and I can say the finance minister himself admitted under direct taxes the loss is 26,000 crores. Actually, there are experts who have analyzed the budget, have said 80,000 crores it is tax exemptions to corporate sector.
You're
They must be happy.
talking about Sainath's article in the Hindu, which actually talks about written off losses.
No,
Written on non-performing assets. That's 80,000.
that is one thing, but finance minister himself has admitted 26,000 crores
Absolutely.
loss.
I accept that.
What does it mean? No, but what I am trying to say, already the food inflation is almost 20%. Finance minister has admitted, government has admitted. Do you say this increase in the price of diesel, petrol will not have any impact on the inflation?
No, he said that, I've answered that, but I'll repeat it again because it's an important point. The finance minister and the prime minister said that it will add to inflation by 0.41% and within 6 months it will be absorbed by the economy. Secondly, this is so small that in fact against it, the rationalization of petrol prices are made again.
Actually, the finance minister is wrong. Finance minister considers the excise duties or customs duties on petrol, crude or diesel are the only way to resource mobilization, revenue mobilization, where we do not agree with that.
Let me bring in Mr. Singhvi. Mr. Singhvi, I think the reason why people are upset not just is because this is going to add to prices, even though your government insists it's only 0.41%. The real reason they're upset is that your budget clearly looks as if it's giving tax sops and exemptions to the small minority that pay taxes, who are clearly the rich in India, but extending excise duty and customs and indirect taxes for the vast majority, which includes 100% of the poor. This is therefore regressive, and it's in that image that this whole business of petrol and diesel price increases is being interpreted. Is the context the problem rather than the measure itself?
I've heard you all for a fairly long length of time. Let's put this in perspective. I think this is a completely disproportionate reaction of criticism. First, the most important point you've made, marginal impact of 0.4 which will not last, that point you've already made. Second, this budget is much more, it's a larger exercise to delicately balance fiscal deficit, reduce stimulus marginally and yet get revenues. Now, is the finance minister a magician to produce revenues from the air? The Kelkar committee has talked of rationalization and warned against subsidies of such a high nature in the oil sector. We have reduced a very marginal part of the subsidy, and what have we done? And this is important. In mid-08, when the price of crude was 112 per barrel, we had a 5% reduction. It's now 70 per barrel, so we've restored that 5% and made it back to 5%. We come back to mid-08. Now,
Abhishek, one second for interruption, Mr. Abhishek. Kirit Parikh committee's recommendations are before the government. Finance minister has said in the parliament they will be considered by the cabinet and petroleum minister. Before any consideration of those recommendations, how come finance minister goes and increases the excise duty, customs duty and petroleum products? What is the transparency? What is the honesty in it?
I'll tell you the difference because actually the finance minister, as you will see from the interview he gave to the Business Standard, was not fully aware that the increase that he was doing in terms of excise and customs would be passed on. He made it clear in that interview that it was theoretically possible it wouldn't be passed on, and he was taken by surprise when he discovered that as he was giving an interview holding open the theoretical possibility that it wouldn't be passed on, in fact the oil secretary, the petroleum secretary, had already announced it would be. And that's the difference. He wasn't sure it would be passed on. He had perhaps gambled on the fact it wouldn't, and that it would simply add to the losses of the oil companies whilst giving the government more revenue. You're talking about Kirit Parikh, where in fact that will be passed on directly to the consumer. When that happens, there'll be a second whammy. But let's leave that aside. That's a correction. I want to come back to politics. Let me continue with him now. Let me come back to the essential politics, because the politics can determine the future of this government. Will you really move a cut motion as you've been threatening, or is that just political rhetoric?
It's a serious, because the issue facing the nation due to these price rises is a serious problem we are facing. It's a huge challenge.
So you are committed to this?
We will.
100% committed to it?
Yes, we are.
This is not the sort of thing you simply say in TV studios.
It's just not, you know.
Will you support a cut motion brought by the BJP?
We may bring cut motions.
In fact, we all have to united together outside the parliament.
It is not that BJP alone should bring cut motions.
All of
It is even left can bring cut motions. It is one possibility to attack the budget and make corrections in the budget. But the left parties are going to meet, and left parties are going to consult other secular democratic parties how we can move.
I understand. At the end of the day, the Speaker will only admit one cut motion, not two. If she chooses to admit the cut motion of the BJP, will the left parties vote with the BJP against the government, or will you abstain and give them a lifeline?
No, it is not a political issue, BJP or left, right, center. It is a people's issue, price rise. We want the government to be more responsive and sensitive. And if Speaker admits left cut motion,
we will support them.
You will support a left cut motion. The question is, will the left support a BJP cut motion? That's the only issue.
The question is, what is facing the nation?
What I am saying,
is facing
it is
the people?
People's issue. Even some Congress, if Congress wants to support our cut motion, or section of the Congress, or the allies of Congress in UPA.
Now.
No, I haven't. I've been interrupted last time with three people attacking me.
But answer the question, Mr. Singhvi. We're running out of time. You've got 10 seconds now.
AVSEQ, we are not attacking you.
Yes, the BJP and the left and the motley crowd of the SP and the BSP have to answer to the electorate as to which kind of unison they are showing with which kind of secular democratic formation.
All right.
Only two things.
I think that is a good point. You're saying they have to answer to the electorate, and perhaps they have to answer to their own conscience. What sort of
Congress has to answer
on that point?
Congress has to answer to the
everything remains still a
electorate.
little uncertain. Everything to play for. And there could still be a risk. Remember, banana skins lie all across the floor of Parliament. My thanks to Siddharth Singh and Mr. Raja for joining me here in studio, and my thanks to AVSEQ Singhvi. And I assure you, Mr. Singhvi, if someone adds up the seconds and minutes spoken on this show, you probably clearly had the single biggest. But yes, you're right, I did interrupt you right at the end of part 2. Thanks for joining us, and if you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye, good night.